Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 202. And it is Sunday, April 27th, 2014. If you hear a loud screeching noise on my end, it's because we have inclement weather, and I have a weather radio to let me know when the tornadoes is a-coming. So, hopefully it won't go off.
And who are you?
I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
I'm Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les. And yeah, those weather radios, I'd never had one until Michael, of course. And we got one when we still lived down south, and the first time that thing went off, I about jumped out of my skin. Because it does not, it gets your attention in a hurry.
It does. And there's, South Haven, where I live, has sirens, too.
Uh-huh.
Like, tornado sirens. But it looks like most of the tornado-type weather is going to the south of me. And we're just, in a flood and flash flood and something
Severe
else.
weather.
Severe thunderstorm.
Yeah.
So, it should not be too bad, hopefully. And we're going to record anyway, because Leslie asked me if I wanted to, and I said yes. So, what are
Actually,
you
Leslie said, you just want to wait and do it tomorrow, because Leslie is all about procrastinating. I am the queen of procrastinating. But,
I can't remember if I wove this end or not, because I haven't cut them, and I'm just going to continue weaving it.
You can never weave it in too much.
That's very true. What are you working on while I weave in ends?
Okay. She made me wait while she bound off, and now she's making me wait while she weaves in ends.
No, I'm making you go first. There's a difference.
Okay, so there are several things I didn't work on this week, just because I didn't feel like it.
This should be like the show in which we work on nothing.
Yeah. Where we have no progress. We have negative progress. So, I think I had finished this sock last week. I'm pretty sure I had already finished the single, the first one. And this is Desert Vista Dye Works. Let me get the tag. I don't remember the base. Zien. I don't know how to say that. So, Susan, you're going to have to tell me. And it's in the Nashville Nights colorway.
It's a pretty colorway.
And it's got a little bit of sparkle, which is nice. I haven't worked on this very much this week at all. I think I was in the ribbing last week. I had just started it. And I'm about to start my heel. I've got another like half inch to go before I start my heel. And that's a Fish Lips Kiss heel. And I'm using my Nova US 1 metric 2.25 millimeter needle for that. And like I said, I barely touched it this week. And part of that is because I started something new.
I want to see.
And it is the North Allerton, which is a hat from the Toasty Knits, or Toasty.
By Coop Knits.
Yes, by Coop Knits. And last week I went out to I guess it's my local yarn shop. It's not really local. It's about 45 minutes away, but it's the one that I like that's the closest to me. And I got 3 skeins of Titus, which is the yarn that all the patterns in the book are knit in. And these are the 3 colors.
Pretty.
So this is...
I'm curious as to if that's for you or not.
I'm not sure yet. We'll see. The Titus is 50% Wensleydale, 20% BFL, and 30% alpaca. And as you're knitting it, it's very soft. And I'm guessing that's because of the alpaca in it. But it also has a little bit of...
Got a halo to it.
Yeah, it does have a halo, but I'm thinking like... kind of like grit, although that's too sharp of a word. It's not grit. It's got a little bit of coarseness to it under the softness, which is unusual.
Edginess to it.
Yeah, but once it's been knit up, it's actually quite fantastic and very soft. I was impressed by how nice it is once it's knit up.
I'll be curious to see how it washes for you.
Yeah, and I definitely will, because the fair isle on this needs to be evened out a little bit. I've had a lot of negative knitting on this because I keep messing up the fair isle pattern and then not realizing it until several rows down, because I don't pay as much attention to my knitting as I should. So I'm in this is A, the chart A, this is B, there's a big one for C, and then you do B and A again. So I just started C. I had to completely redo this whole section, the first one, and then I had to rip down 4 rows in this section. So I'd just gotten it back to where
I would be putting lifelines in between the sections.
You would think it's not that hard. It's just what keeps happening is that I keep flipping the colors. So if I put it down, and like this row, it's beige, beige, orange, beige, beige, orange. So when I pick it back up, I'll end up doing orange, orange, beige, orange, orange, beige, and I won't realize it until I'm 2 rows past that. Yeah. And it's just irritating, which is no fault of the pattern. It's my fault.
What size are you knitting then on?
I'm using. I did the ribbing on 2.75 needles, and then I'm doing the body on 2.5s, so 3.0 millimeter needles, which is a non-standard size in the US, but I had a set with my die-craft heavy metals, so I figured I'll use them. So I really enjoy this, but not enough to try and knit it while we're recording, because then I'll just have to rip it back again.
Yeah.
But I am really enjoying the yarn, so... Hopefully
Well, you have the sock that you could be knitting on.
Yeah, I'm knitting on the sock. And then I started another thing for a friend of mine who's having a baby. And I always hesitate to knit anything like newborn size for babies, because most of what you get not in swaps, but in like showers and stuff, it tends to be for newborn to 6 months. Which is fine, because you still need stuff for that time. But when I try to give stuff that they can wear in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
So
and that way, babies come out different sizes. So that way, if it's a big baby or a small baby, they'll be able to wear it.
And I wanted to give something that could be used for more than one season. Because I just feel like if I'm putting all the time into making it, then I would like for it to be used as long as possible. And I printed out the pattern and then left it upstairs, so let me pull it up real quick. This is from Twist Collective, I think 2011. Let me pull it up here. By Allison Green, 2009, wow. It's old. Alright, and it's called Little Liza Jane.
It's super cute.
It is this little baby girl dress.
Super cute.
And then as the baby gets bigger, it can become like a tunic.
Yeah.
With leggings.
Does it come in? And what size are you knitting?
It comes in from 6 months up to 3T. And I'm knitting it in the 12-month. And I'm knitting it in Hempathy.
Love Hempathy.
Elizabeth Lavold Hempathy. This is from forever ago. I think I bought it at Hank of Yarn. I don't know. A long time ago.
You did buy it at Hank of Yarn when she discontinued it.
And it's got like it starts at the bottom edge, and it's got this ruffle shell stitch, which I messed up 4 times and had to rip out. But I finally figured out what I was doing wrong. I wasn't reading the directions correctly. It's one of those where you, during this particular row, you did like you knit into the stitch, and then you did an increase, and then you knit in the back of the stitch as well. So you turn 1 stitch into 3 stitches. And I didn't read it right, and so I just kept going across the row in each individuals. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking for a year.
Because you have.
Oh, I would totally say a word that is not polite, but I'm not going to. So I've only got like an inch, but I love garments made out of Hempathy, but it's a little hard on my hand, so
yeah.
I knit on it for a couple hours last night while I was watching Mad Men, and that is living in my knotted bag.
Cool.
Purple and purple. So
Works
those are
well
the things that
together.
I'm knitting on. I've not finished anything nor spun anything this week, so it's all to Laura for a while.
Score, so now you get to talk about me talking for a long
Yep.
time. I am knitting on Tubularity by Martina Bem. It is my only active work in progress.
I'm so impressed.
Okay. It looks like this. It is being knit on size 3 needles. This color right here is where the triangle started, is Mad Tosh Light in the cherry colorway. Then there's a Trekking. Then there's Jinx Yarn in her BFL base. That was part of a kit that Annie Light did, that I designed for. Then there is, actually there's a lot of things that I designed out of. This is Punky Brewster, another crafty girl. This is left over from a design as well. This is Macintosh Yarns. I'm not certain what the color is. I had wound it and then just used the wound ball. And then the last but not least, this is going to be my last color, is Miss Babs in the Shaken Not Stirred colorway. So there will be bits of green that come into play with this gray.
For the olive. Cool.
Yep, I'll line it up so you can see what they all look like together. So I have around 8 inches left to work on this. There are people who are like rocking this out, and I'm so jealous of them because I hit the black hole of this.
Yeah.
Like, I would say around Tuesday, and I feel like I have not gotten a lot done. That's how all the colors look together.
Cool.
And there's the hint of the green that I'm going into right now. So that is my only work in progress. I just keep thinking in my head, 8 more inches before Marilyn Sheep and Wool. Because I want to block it. I want this done by Tuesday so I can block it. I just kicked my bucket of bobbins. And so I can block it. And then sew on some buttons. I'm going to try to go to Joann's. I cannot find my button bin. Like, it's somewhere in this house, but I don't know where.
That doesn't narrow it down a lot. It's a big house.
Yeah. So I can't find my button bin. So I have random buttons sitting on my desk from the move, and I'm going to try to go to Joann's, and I have one of these, and get another 2. It looks like they came in packs of 3, and I only need 3, so I'll probably pick up some buttons at Joann's probably on Tuesday. And that's it for my works in progress. I've been very monotonous and monogamous.
Monogamous.
All at the same time.
Monomona.
I have a finished object in that I finished the reknitting of the antler sweater. It's hot here, but I'll put it on. I'll do some when it's blocked and has the buttons and the ends are cut. I have not cut the ends yet because I have not blocked it, and I like to cut my ends after I block. In case they pop through during the blocking. So the main things that I did on the sweater is I cut off 6 inches of the body, reknit 2 of the ribbing at the bottom. It's right at my waist now. It's a much more manageable length. I had ripped off the button bands and reknit the, to do the whole thing, I had to rip off the button band, and you can see where I added in, this originally was, the neck was 2 inches long. I added short rows, so 8 rows of short rows, around 1 inch to the back, and 2 more additional inches to the whole thing, so this is now 4 inches for my ribbing at the top. Let's see if I can put it on without looking like a fool. I look like a fool all the time, but, you know. So now, before it was falling off my collarbone, now it is more up towards my t-shirt line. Before it was like right here.
Yeah.
So now it is, once I stand up and get it situated, now it is much more better fitting on my shoulders. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall off all the time. And it really needed the short rows in the back to really add some height to the back of it, so it doesn't feel like it's falling off there. Then I reknit the button bands. I originally had 5 buttons on this. I made it so that I have 7 holes, and I have 7 of these buttons. So I went and bought more buttons. Originally I had 5 holes because I was going to use some gorgeous ceramic buttons I got from Melissa Jean, and then I broke some.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen, but I like, these are nice and light, like super light, so they're not
Yeah.
going to drag down the bands. My sleeves are rolled up, they're cuffed. I decided not to rip those out and rein it down. Just because I like I don't have any sweaters that are
Baggy.
sleeve length, like wrist length. All mine are 3/4 that I've knit for me. So, that's it. Antler's been reknit. I'm going to sew on the buttons, get this blocked tonight. It will never dry because I am in the middle.
Because you live in a very humid place.
Yeah. That's raining today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. But I figure if I get it blocked, then I can put buttons. I like to block before I sew on buttons. I'll get the buttons on there, and this might be what I take to Maryland to wear at night because the highs look like they're going to be in the mid-60s, which means
That is perfect. Why would you need a jacket for that?
Which means at night it'll be in the 50s. I get colds. I know you don't, but I do.
I do, but then I put a sweater on for 60 seconds and I'm like, oh.
I have been spinning. Primarily what I've been spinning has been the CVM fleece. It's around 2 ounces. I'm going to spin till the bobbin's full. So that's what that's looking like. The intention is this is going to be a 3-ply. So it's hard to see it on the dark brown bobbin. But you'll be seeing lots of this in the next couple months. So the first 2 ounces are down, like 14 more to go. So that's it for spinning. So CVM's really nice. It is our Expenditure Horizons this month, which I never started a thread for because I'm a terrible podcaster.
No pay for you this month, Laura.
Yeah. Okay. So there goes the weather radio. So that's it for me. CVM, nice fine fleece. It's California Variegated Mutant. It's a Romneydale. It originated from Romneydale. So, and I have a Morit colored one, which is kind of like honey colored, that I'm going to start processing May 1st because it's going to be my owl for Harry Potter House Cup.
Do you want to say anything about people staying out of your way getting to the fleece table at Maryland Sheep and Wool?
No, because the fleece table has moved from the big barn to a side location, and I'm thinking that people will not know that.
So I shouldn't have said anything, is what you're saying?
No, from what I've read, I've been reading a lot on the Maryland Sheep and Wool board, like, there's so many fleeces, it'll be fun. I would ideally, like, I know you're going to be looking for a fleece, too.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not, like, hardcore. If I don't
Is
find
there
one, it's no big deal.
a certain breed that you're specifically looking for?
Maybe Cormo, maybe BFL. I actually think BFL would be a good
Those
first
are my
fleece
two.
for me. Do what?
You better stay out of my way.
Oh.
Those are the two that I want.
I just... if I don't find one, it's no big deal. I'm not going to be stressed about it. But
so either of those two or Shetland for me, I'm thinking. So.
Or Falkland. I'd love to get a Falkland.
Yeah, Falkland would be fun. I don't think that was on their breed list.
Yeah, it might not be.
Or Polypay would be awesome. Or, what else would be good? Polworth would also be lovely. So, I do not want a merino
Polworth
fleece.
may be a little too fine for me to start with, but then Cormo would be as well.
CVM's
So.
very fine, and so is Cormo. So, it all depends. I'm more into, like, staple length than, because I would like a 4 to 5 inch staple length versus, because this was a 2-inch staple length, and it's being a little bit of a pain when I spin it.
I can see that.
Because it had to be carded. If you get a longer staple length, then you can comb it.
Yeah.
Or you could just send it off to be processed.
That's
into top.
That's the tempting way to do it.
It is. So we have a book to review. It is Woven Scarves by Jane Patrick and Stephanie Flynn
Sokolov.
It retails for $24.99. The lovely people at Interweave sent this our way. I think they're F&M Media, something like that.
Yeah, I think F&W Media.
There you go. M's just W's upside down.
Yeah, and these are the authors. I don't know much about Stephanie. I have met Jane before when I went to the Shocked Factory.
Yeah, and at
because
TNNA.
she is married to Barry Shocked, the
She
maker.
showed us the Shocked Swifts when we were at TNNA.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
She's very nice. So she is one of the awesome people. She's the vice president of sales for Shocked.
Yeah.
So, that being said, a lot of the stuff in here it's 26 projects for Rigid Heddle Loom. And Shocked happens to make 2 Rigid Heddle Looms, which are amazing.
Yeah, and we actually, what this book is once you've got, basically it's once you've got the plain weave down, now what can you do? This is intended to give you ideas of different ways that you can use your rigid heddle, because a lot of what I find online when I'm looking for patterns is for floor looms, where there's more than one heddle. And without it, you have to use pickups. It becomes a big problem, a pain in the butt. But there's some really great ideas for what you can use your rigid heddle for in here.
And a lot of, if you have a large stash, like a lot of us do, how you could decrease some of that stash. So my first thing that I really like, which is probably very easy, but it looks amazing, is the chunky check.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a great way to use up a couple skeins of a worsted or chunky weight yarn. This calls for 200 yards of each, so really, really easy. And I have no idea what half this stuff means. Like, warp ends. I'm still like a newbie with my flip, so it's pretty cool. But there are lots of nice pictures as you go along, which I think is really neat.
And it does break down for you. In the back, it's got a section on what does this mean and how do you count your heddle and all. Like, it explains that. But I really like this go to work because it's so simple, but I would never have thought of it to just throw in every 10 warp threads or so, you throw in an accent color and you get, you know, this really pretty, understated piece.
Yeah, with the teeny tiny fringe, or you could hem stitch it.
And it gives you, like, if you have 10 yards of a really precious hand spun, it gives you a way to use that, you know? You could pop that in there as the accent.
So, just talking about some elements of this book that I really, really like. Every single pattern has a yarn wrapping section. So it shows you in actual size, if you're doing replacements for yarns, what that yarn actually looks like and the actual size of that yarn. So I think that's very cool. There are some tutorials, like picture tutorials, photo tutorials, on things like making fringe with a twister, which as a newbie I find very helpful. I also, I like in the layout that they have variations. So if you did it in different colors, how it would look, and how they have the warping set up as a table in most of them. That's really user friendly and easy to read.
I really like in the pattern that you were just showing. I like that they have a picture of it on the loom, because for those that are really have all these different colors and a lot of things going on, it's really helpful to be able to visualize, oh, okay, on the warp there's 2 black, 2 white, 2 black, you know, whatever the case may be. I think that that's, especially for somebody who's relatively new to it, I think that's very helpful.
And with stuff like the yarn wrapping, like some of this is more novelty yarn in here. And and I actually have some novelty yarn in my stash that a lot of these projects would be perfect for. But it's nice to actually see what the yarn looks like when it's not knit up or woven up in this case.
And keep that up there. Keep that back where you are. So if you look where it's got the 3 very different yarns wrapped, and then if you go just below that, it actually shows you what it looks like when it's done. And I would have never connected those two because it tells you that a lot of how you get the final product is in the finishing of the scarf. You have to sort of know how fibers behave and whether or not, if you're using a novelty yarn, using a mohair or alpaca will help fill in the gaps of the yarn. which is it's interesting to know. I wouldn't really have thought of that.
And how some yarns will felt and others will not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're finishing a piece by felting, and this is the swoosh scarf, and I would have never put those together.
I wouldn't, but if they look fantastic.
Really cool. Oh yeah, I love it.
I like the plaid muffler. It makes me think of Burberry.
Yes.
It looks very expensive, and realistically, you could use, Karen Simply Soft or something and get something that looks very expensive.
This is folds or felted, so you would have to use like Cascade 220
or
Patton's wool. But it's really, and it actually calls for Imperial Stock Ranch. But this looks like something that I would purchase.
Mm-hmm.
That I would, go to the. It doesn't look like it's handmade. It looks like it's got that higher level of, I don't know.
Another thing to mention is it's not something I would probably make, but I do think it's a cool way to deal with all the ends. The bobble scarf. If you look, all the ends from your warp, they just tied them and made them into pom-poms, which I think is a really clever idea. It's a great way to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it would be an easy thing to do, especially if you're making something for children.
So with Ladies Who Lunch, I actually happen to have some mohair and some very similar novelty in my stash. I could totally see myself doing this. But what I like about this book is you can say, oh, that looks great in that pattern, but it also gives you ideas of things that you could do on your own that it's a good springing off point. It's an inspiring book as well as just having great patterns.
It also, I like that it makes you think a lot more. So an example is this Posh Plum Scarf. So at first glance, it's just a solid color, right? Mm-hmm. And then as you get closer, you realize that it's different weights and different types of yarn that are blended to make a very subtle pattern, which I think is it's a nice way to make something a little more posh.
Yeah. I think the stainless steel scarf is really interesting because I've gone past Habui's booth at numerous stitches and thought, that's really cool stuff. What could I do with that?
Yeah,
I agree.
agree.
It's just a really interesting piece.
Some of the things are a little crazier than I would probably do, but it still gets you thinking about, well, how would you make it different and how would you make it more to your taste?
Yeah.
Which I think is helpful.
There's some great picture tutorials with helpful hints. I like the sun shower as well, and that is, again, novelty. Mm-hmm. This would move a ton of novelty yarn out of my stash.
And it would go really fast.
Yeah, that would be very cool. So I might have to warp the loom up sometime next week, since I'll be gone for most of this week. But, very, very cool.
I also think that this is interesting. This is the eyelet scarf, and it makes me think of Annie and the Swiss cheese scarf.
Yeah.
But I do like the cascading sort of angle of the pattern, and then again, there are photo tutorials of every step of that process of how you create those holes, very clear. And I think that it's nice that they don't just assume that you know what a pickup stick is, or a tapestry beater or whatever. They really break it down and make it easy to understand.
Are you going to be looking at weaving items when you go to? You going to go by Manning's booth and look at?
Yeah, I need some plain warp for some of the things that I'm making. So.
I also really like the steampunk scarf, which uses
There's
bleach.
a surprise. Yeah.
But it's really an interesting thing, and you could do that with all sorts of different motifs.
Mm-hmm. You could do it for your kid's school mascot, or
But it helps that it's black and gold too. But that bleach would take color out of anything, so that's and that would be very intimidating to me. But it's very cool.
I think that's a good one. I mean, I think that it really helps you sort of put yourself in the mindset of your woven item is fabric.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
And you
definitely.
need to treat it as fabric, and you're creating, it's not necessarily finished when you take it off the loom. I like the Gypsy Dancer, actually. And this uses a technique called differential shrinkage
Yeah.
in the process. So this is what it looks like. And you can see the edges are bowed towards the middle, and that's due to the way that it's woven and the fabrics that are used. But I think that that could be done very cleverly, and I would probably do it in a slightly tamer color, but I can definitely see myself making something like that. Let's
Neat.
see.
Anything else? There's some great photo tutorials in the back, which Leslie's already mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, we're not showing you everything. There's still, 10
There's
other
26,
patterns.
yeah. There's 26 projects in here. So for when you think about it, $24.95, like $2 a pattern, basically.
And I really think that there's sort of a void of
Or a
weaving.
dollar a pattern. My math is off.
There's a void of information out there for beginner weavers, and I think that for the quality of the photo tutorials and ideas that you get from this book, it is absolutely a must-have for anybody with a rigid heddle that wants to do something besides your basic plain weave. I give it an enthusiastic 2 thumbs up.
Good. It's also very inspiring as well, with a
It
great
is.
layout, which is always important. So this is Woven Scarves, 26 Inspired Projects
Yep.
by Jane Patrick and Stephanie Flynn's.
So
We're gonna say it
Glove.
wrong. And it retails for $25 US, 28 Canadian. Thank you so much, Interweave, for sending this our way.
Yeah.
It's a very inspiring book. And my weaving books, I don't have that many. I have Weaver's Idea Book and this now, I think. So
Yeah, I
and
think
both
those are the
rigid
only
heddle.
2.
Yeah,
And they're both Jane Patrick books, aren't they?
they are.
That's what I
So,
thought.
and the other one I actually have on my Kindle because a lot of Interweave's books now, if you're not already aware, you can get on the Kindle.
Hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
So
We
Jane
have-
should write more books.
Yes, obviously. We have a viewer question from, I'm going to say Jiren,
Jiren. Yeah.
Jirrin. What tools do you use or have used in emergencies that are not specifically made for knitting or spinning? So, I use paper clips all the time
Yeah.
for very lame crochet hooks or for orifice hooks in a pinch. They
Yeah.
work perfect.
I'm
I've
thinking.
cut straws, like fast food restaurant straws, to use as stitch markers.
Mm-hmm. I've done that with embroidery floss. The little label that comes on it, I've cut that. It's basically the same thing. Use that
Okay.
as stitch markers. Let me think. I used a skewer once to pick up a stitch I had dropped in stockinette. What else?
I've used broken needles as cable needles, like
Yeah.
ones that have been broken, or I've used toothpicks, or I've used tapestry needles as cable needles before too.
I don't use. I generally cable without a cable needle unless it's more than 3/3, and then I'll use a cable needle or a stitch holder or something. I've used some really weird things as stitch holders, like when it says take your knitting off and put it on a holder for like a sleeve or whatever.
Yeah.
I've used bobby pins. I've used a giant safety pin that was
Yeah.
for a skirt, like a kilt style
Yeah.
skirt. I've used that for holding stitches.
I've used rings, like from my fingers, as stitch markers before.
Oh, I've never done that. That's clever.
Or earrings as stitch markers.
I've used hair ties as to go around the outside of a yarn cake to keep it from
Oh,
unraveling.
that's
I've done that
smart.
once.
It's super smart.
That's all I can think of. I'm sure
Yeah.
I'll think of like 10 once we stop recording, but
I've used Ziploc bags and cut holes in them to keep yarn in and go up through the hole.
Yeah, I've done that once when I was doing 2 at a time socks. It didn't help. It was
I've used
worse.
binder clips for beading before, to push up my beads.
The beads on the floss, yeah.
I don't know. That's about it.
That would be a cool question to ask people. Like,
in
what
the
is,
group, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe for this episode thread, comment on what the craziest non-knitting tool you've ever used for knitting.
We can make that the contest this week if
or
you
spinning.
Like.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
So, moving into contests and favorite things, we have a skein of storied yarns. Let me take it out of its bag. It's been Humberto proofed.
Where is Humberto?
He does not like inclement weather, so he's
hiding
out underneath a table because tornadoes can't come when you're under tables.
It's like the monsters can't come if you're under the covers.
Yeah.
Totally
this
logical.
This is the Jordan Baker colorway from Great Gatsby. That's who the inspiration was. It is Storied Yarns BFL Sport. Yum. 100% superwash BFL in a sport weight, 278 yards. And this was sent to us by the lovely Storied Yarns, whose name is it Jess? I think it's Jess.
I can't remember. I'm a terrible person. I'm very sorry.
I've met her in real life, too. I wonder if she's going to go to Middle Tennessee this year. I wonder if Middle Tennessee is when they're doing their retreat.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But
so, to win that skein of yarn, we'll open a thread, and the prompt can be, what is the craziest non-knitting notion that you've used in your knitting, or spinning, or crochet, or general crafting?
Yeah. So, that's our giveaway for this week. We have the Two Guys Yarn Company, which has a code, which we are including in the show notes for 20% off, which is good through sometime in May.
It's like May 27th, I think. Yeah.
So, y'all made the Jean and David's Day, I think.
Yeah, we got nice notes from them about people using the code or people sending them notes or whatever. Just nice feedback, and we always appreciate that. It's
very
you know
nice
we
people.
don't obligate anybody to buy anything that they don't want to, but I think that it's nice.
So again, this is from Two Guys Yarn on Etsy. And this is the bright chartreuse colorway in their standard base, and it is amazing. It's a superwash BFL, 25% nylon base, 463 yards. So you have a good bit here to work with. I can definitely see their stuff for 2-color shawls.
Yeah,
would be amazing.
Because it's a really well saturated color.
Yep.
Alright, so we had 293 entries. I just went out and looked, and I'm going to do a generate between 2 and 293. And the number is 83, which should be on the 4th page.
Okay, I'm getting there. Page 4. Said 83?
83.
That is straight work.
Oh, cool. I've seen her comment several times on the board.
Yeah, she's from Ohio. She might have gone to the first SSK, I have a feeling. Maybe not. I feel like we've met Kathy.
It's entirely possible.
So, Kathy, if you will send me Lala PM with your address, and she has Australian Shepherds, so you know she's good people.
Aww.
Yeah, she came last year because she has an alpaca farm. She was spinning alpaca at SSK. Okay. 99% sure.
I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry. I can't remember everybody.
Well, she and I were sitting at the same table together at one point. Okay. That's the only reason why I remember that. Anyway, so, Kathy, just send me a PM, and I will get that to you. Let me switch back over to show notes so I know what I'm talking about. I have doors! In my house.
Both had glass crises this week.
So, I was on a field trip this week, and I'll talk more about my field trips later, because they were amazing. And, Monday I went on a field trip, and I was just zapped by the time I got home, and I had intended to mow my lawn. So, and then Tuesday was just not a good day for me. And Wednesday, Wheezy surprised me, and he came over to mow my lawn. And, he sent me a PM or a text, and he goes, I have some good news. I mowed your lawn. And I was ecstatic. Like, I was like, can I buy you dinner? Like, he's an awesome dad, and I'm so fortunate to have great parents. And I was so excited. And then he's like, but wait, there's some bad news. And he sent me a picture of my front door. And I guess when he was mowing my lawn, he hit a pebble, and it shot into my exterior door, which was
the storm
ugly.
door.
Yeah, a storm door. And it was ugly and brass, and I do not like brass things.
Unless it's steampunk.
That's true. But, like, I don't care for brass, fake gold light fixtures and stuff. So I had already been plotting on how I could replace that door. So I wasn't, but the whole thing shattered.
Yeah.
So, yesterday I went to Home Depot and spent my Maryland cheap and wool budget on some doors. So, I've been intending to get a new back storm door because water had been leaking in through my back door because the people who in this house before me had pets, and they did rescue dogs, and they had a doggy door that was not installed properly and was leaking water.
Yeah.
So when it rained. So I have a brand new storm door on the back, and I will have a brand new storm door to replace the broken one on the front, which it's awesome. Humberto. I did not get the full glass ones. These ones have screens, which is awesome.
So you can get the breeze.
The even better part is the screens are like halfway up the door. So Humberto can stand on his hind legs, and when I usually just would have screens, he would like rip them.
Yeah.
Because he's a jerk. But these are high enough up that he can't do that. Like, I can open just half of them. Like, I can just open the top half. So he can still see at the glass towards the bottom.
Yeah.
But he can't rip up the screen. So I'm excited about my new doors.
Your Humberto-proof screens.
Yes, my Humberto-proof screens. And the house doesn't have any screens on the windows right now because the puppies eat them all. Like, there's huge holes.
Dogs are jerks that way. They
have huge holes. So that's next on the list. The never-ending list.
Yeah.
But you had a
Welcome to
glass
being
too.
a homeowner.
And that's fine. You had a glass crazy as well.
I did, although really it wasn't mine so much as Michael's. But so we are a 2-car household, and we pretty much always have been. I need my own car. I need an escape route. I enjoy having my own vehicle. And they're both older models. His is like a 2004, mine's a 2007, and they're paid off. Yay. But anyway, he's been building a deck for the past several months. Actually, I think it's gone back to like end of last year. He started it. And we're very near.
When I went and saw you in December.
Yeah, it's when he, because he plotted out, all the supports, and anyway, whatever. It's going to look awesome. And he's almost done with it. We actually went and got the last load of wood today. I'm surprised he's not out there hammering right now. But the other day, I want to say Thursday, I think it was Thursday because I was working at home that day, he took my car at the end of the day to go to Home Depot to get some wood. And you might ask yourself, well, why did he take your car when he's got a truck? That is an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. So, I drive a Civic, and if you fold down the back seats, you can get a 10-foot piece of wood that'll go from the trunk all the way up to the driver's...
car length is 10.
Yeah,
and
to the armrest.
The trunk,
yeah, so he can get longer pieces of wood in my car than he can in his truck because his truck has a short bed because it's got an extended cab and a short bed. So it's really only safe to get 8-foot pieces of wood in his truck. So he wanted 10-foot, so he took my car. Also, he was lazy and didn't want to move my car so he could get his truck out. That's what it was, really. But anyway, as he was loading the pieces of wood from the trunk up to the driver's armrest, he did it a little too enthusiastically, and it went right into my windshield. And it's starburst of glass. Luckily, the windshields are built in such a way that it didn't shatter. It has I would say it's probably a foot in diameter. Diameter is this, and circumference is around. So diameter. And he was so like ashamed, I guess, when he came inside. He was like, so, I broke your windshield. I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. And I went out and tried to take pictures. It's actually really hard to take pictures of a windshield because it's like, unless you get the right angle, you can't even see it's broken. But anyhow, so I made an appointment at the local auto glass place, and we're going to drop it off tomorrow, and it's going to cost him $400 to replace it. But it is what it is. I mean,
you gotta laugh.
So yeah, that was fun. That was fun. And then today, it's been a really busy weekend. Like, I haven't had as much crafting time because I've been trying to... Yesterday I spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours taking pictures of stash, which is... I just almost said a bad word. Is ridiculous that I have enough that it should take that long. And it's only stuff from May of last year up to present.
But
so I
you
took
put
all those.
Your entire stash in Ravelry.
Yes, except for like little bits and bobs of sugar and cream and stuff. Yeah. Except for that, yes, everything should be in Ravelry. I took the pictures yesterday. I haven't uploaded them. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow, or in between waiting on jobs and stuff to run.
Yeah.
So I did that yesterday, and then today we had an appointment at the vet's. And we're talking more about our personal life than we normally do. If that bugs you, we're open to that criticism. But we usually put it at the end.
Stop it anytime.
Yeah, we usually put it at the end. So, if that bores you, you don't have to listen. But yeah, this morning we had an appointment at the vet for all 5 of our furry
Did the bunny go too?
The bunny did not. But we have 3 cats and 2 dogs, and so they all needed to... Like, the cats haven't been to the vet since we moved, which has been almost 2 years. The dogs have, but we wanted everybody to get caught up at the same time on all their rabies, Bordetella, all that crap. And so we did that, and that was a lot of money for all 5 of them. Yeah. And of course, both our dogs are very nervous, so they're shedding fur like it's going out of style.
Did he pee anywhere?
He did. He peed several times on the examiner's table, but they were ready for it, and they Cloroxed it down or whatever. And so then we come home, and then we have to go back out and go to Home Depot again. And that was the last trip that we made for the wood. And then once we got back, the dogs needed a bath. So I probably smell like wet dog, but since you're not here and you can't smell it, that's cool. It's been nice. The weather is absolutely beautiful, and it's so nice to actually be out and doing things. So, although I wish that I was going to the zoo like all the cool people, like even on Instagram, Amy Beth and Malia, I keep posting selfies with rhinos, and it makes me want to go do a selfie with a rhino.
There you go.
Did you see any rhinos when you were at the zoo?
I don't know if I saw rhinos. They didn't leave a lasting impression if I did.
I think you saw hippo. I remember you talking about the hippos.
I saw all the animals between the 2 days. So I took the kids on Monday and Wednesday to the zoo. And then Thursday I took the art kids to the art museum. And then Friday I had a guest speaker who is a Civil War reenactor and was in the library presenting to like all the 8th grade history classes like all day long.
Oh, so he did a presentation over and over.
Yeah. So it was great knitting time because I'm supposed to be working on my summer reading list. Like, that would have been the perfect time to be doing that. I didn't want to be shelving books or anything that was intrusive.
Yeah.
But I have a problem reading while someone's talking.
Yeah, your brain wants to listen to one thing.
Yeah, and I need to be paying attention to the summer reading because I need to be looking at content as well as enjoying the books. So I sat and knit on this, and that's where all the blue got done. I did not. You don't get that.
You don't get that opportunity often, so.
No, and it worked out fine. And at the Brooks, I got to sit and knit a little bit too because the kids did resistance watercolors. They had like an art lab, and then they had like the Dolly exhibit was up.
Oh,
so
cool.
I got to see the originals for the Dolly did a series of books. He did a cookbook, which is very bizarre.
Really? Dolly did something bizarre?
Yeah. Yeah, but like a cookbook, okay? And then he did Don Quixote, which was interesting. It's not one of my favorite
So
books.
he did a painting based on the book,
He
or
did illustrations for the actual books. So like
oh,
each chapter has because he would do anything to make money. Um,
as all artists will.
Seriously, but he did like costuming. He did a lot of
Huh.
non-traditional stuff and got a lot of flack for it. Um, so he did illustrations for Don Quixote, a cookbook, Alice in Wonderland, and Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale. So they had all the original like artist proofs for that
Wow.
whole series. I wish you could have taken pictures, but it wasn't allowed, and they were very hard. Like because I was with kids too, we were being
Yeah.
watched at all times.
I do not blame them a bit.
Yeah, and everything was framed anyways, so you wouldn't under glass, so you wouldn't have been able to get a good photograph anyways.
Yeah.
But the Alice in Wonderland stuff was pretty cool because he does surrealism, and that's very like when I was trying to explain to the kids what surrealism is, I was like, okay, Miss Linneman's gonna break it down in library terms. It's like Alice in Wonderland, and they got it. So that was pretty cool, and there were some Warhols on exhibit. The Brooks if you're not from the Memphis area, the Brooks is a very, very small art museum.
It's almost like it's a
small.
mansion that was converted into an art
museum. It's very
museum.
similar to the Pink Palace, where it's like a house that's been converted.
Yeah.
So, the galleries, you have to like walk through rooms to go to other rooms. And the only thing you can take pictures of is their main exhibits. So I took a picture of a stone carved sheep and posted that on Instagram. It was very cool. But overall, field trips, lots of fun, great week. And now this next week and for the next 3 weeks, it's all testing all the time.
Oh, is this where you get to walk around over and over?
Yes. Actually, tomorrow I get to be a hall monitor. So.
Wow. So what does that mean? You just walk through the halls?
No, I sit outside. So we're doing the new testing. Common Course come into effect, and it's on the computer. So there's the admin of the test and the proctor of the test are in the computer lab, and every single computer lab has to have a person outside them in case something happens. Also, to let the person who's in charge of testing, it's like a window. It's timed via computer, so they only get 3 hours to do it. So she has to activate the test for everyone. So I get to sit outside with a walkie-talkie and say, okay, they've read the instructions. You need to activate it now.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a totally different. I'm so scared I'm going to mess it up because it's a totally different. Like, I've been doing the same version of testing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is totally new. So
I doubt you're the only one with this concern. So.
Yeah. So, and it's just on the science test. So the science test is this week. Algebra test is the following week. That's only one day. Science test is 4 days this week.
Wow.
Yeah, because we don't have enough computer labs for all our kids, so it's on rotation basis. So I go to knit for 1 day, and the other 3 I'm proctoring, which means making sure they don't hit past a certain point, because they can finish their test, and at a certain point the admin has to stop them. Anyway, it's super boring. Once they hit the stop, do not continue, it pops up on the admin screen. Okay, well they didn't answer these 4 questions. They need to go back and answer these to finish the test.
Wow.
So it's hardcore. But, and then MCT2s is the following week. And I'm gone for 2 weekends. So it's going to be, super busy all the time for me.
Yeah.
And I totally just got on a 10-minute tangent. So I don't think anyone's watching the podcast anymore.
So now let's talk about important stuff. So you started the Stash Dash thread.
Yeah, and that'll, actually, I started it today. Just the general information thread. Stash Dash will start the Friday before Memorial Day. I actually have to still work the following week because of snow days. So I come back from Memorial Day vacation and I have to work a day. So,
do the kids have to be in that day, or
but no?
Okay.
It's teacher work day, and I'm trying to convince my principal, since she's going to a new job, that she should take us all to the Civil Rights Museum because they just did a $4 million renovation.
Yeah.
and we should be able to check it out for field trips next year. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I think that'd be a fantastic... Because otherwise, what are you going to do? Everybody's just going to waste their day. At least if you're going to the Civil Rights Museum...
We're just going to go play Uno someplace.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least this way you can get some culture.
Yeah.
You know, I fully support that plan. I'll write my congressman if you think that'll help.
Yeah, whatever. I checked out Susan B. Anderson has been doing video podcasts.
I saw that on Instagram, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, they're super fun, and they're on her site, and she doesn't do them very often. I think she's on her 6th, but she's super cute.
Oh, well, yeah.
Worth watching.
You just want to put her in your pocket. I mean...
Oh, yeah. She could come hang out at my house anytime.
Well,
but, so
I'll go to hers.
Wonderful.
She doesn't need to come to mine.
My house where things leak and glass gets broken.
Yeah. Mine is, you know, as usual, a disaster, so I'd rather pretend that I'm civilized and meet her at Starbucks.
There you go. You have, linen pants.
So, our show notes are so ridiculous. Like, for favorite things, they're descriptive. It says field trips, stash, doors, linen pants. You know, it's very crazy. I discovered linen pants this year. I've never had linen pants before, and a lot of you are probably like, this is the weirdest thing she's ever said. Who doesn't know what linen pants are? But, yeah, I know, like, I grew up in the South, and you would think that lots of people would wear them, because it's hot as hell. It's very hot down there. But I'm a big girl. I've moved from big girl to fat girl, and I'm living it with it. But let me tell you, linen pants are the bomb, because you can, like,
the
air flows.
You stay hot all the time, though, too. Like, you are always warm.
Yeah, I am, because I'm fat, and I have more, like, yeah, I'm always hot. But anyway, linen pants, like, let the air flow, but, like, I don't like to wear skirts and dresses, because, I've been brainwashed by the media, and I think my knees look weird, and anyway. So, I like to wear pants, but jeans are too hot, and linen pants are awesome. So, I'm fully in support of if you're a big girl and you don't own linen pants, go get yourself some linen pants, because they are comfortable. They are awesome. And my public service announcement is over for the day.
I think that's SSK spots. We have SSK spots. If you're still watching the show, and I have no idea why.
Yeah.
We have SSK spots opening May 7th.
Yes. So, and I started a thread in the SSK group, as well as emailed everybody who's still on the waiting list. If you are on the waiting list and you didn't get an email, check your spam folder. Or you can just go out, because all the same information is on the SSK board. We have some spots right now. I think we've got 2 on site and 4 day pass, although I think that number might be a little bit higher. I think we've had 2 people drop since then. I'll have to go back and look. But on May 7th at noon Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to unlock this thread. If you want to go to SSK and you are already on the wait list, you have to have already put your name in the wait list. If you want to double check that you're on the wait list, feel free to PM me. I'll go out there and look and let you know. If you're already on the wait list, once I open the thread, you can claim a spot by just replying to the thread and saying I would like a full spot or I would like a day pass spot. The costs are all broken down, as well as when everything is due. It's all broken down in the thread. I'm not going to go through it all, but all the information that you need to know is in the thread, and it's stickied in the Super Summer Knit Together group on Ravelry, and it's called Open SSK Spots 2014. If the thread will stay open for 3 days or until all the spots are filled. If 3 days pass and all the spots are not filled, I don't think that's likely, but if it does happen, we will start a different thread where someone who is not on the wait list can claim a spot.
Yep, that happened the first year.
It did. It's unlikely, but it can happen. So,
yep. And it can continually happen.
Yes,
too.
I can almost guarantee you that even once all these spots are filled, from the middle of May until the middle of July, that's 2 months. We'll have 5 or 6. I'll say between 2 and 5 people will drop out because, maybe they injure themselves or somebody schedules a wedding last minute or something. Like, life happens, and we don't begrudge that of
or
anybody.
a family member gets hospitalized.
Right.
Or, stuff happens.
So just keep your eyes on the SSK board if you aren't on the wait list and you want to go, just because that's where we'll post all that information.
Yep. It's a good board to have your eye on. What is that yarn or fiber behind you that's orange, blue, and green? It's
right
behind
here?
you on the couch, yeah.
This is the Cloud Lover that was
That's
last
pretty.
week's giveaway that nobody has emailed me about yet.
There you go.
So.
I was like, that's really pretty.
Shame on you for not watching things the instant we publish them.
Pshaw. Alright, so I don't think anyone's watching anymore. So and I need to check the weather. So I will let you go. I will see you Friday.
Yes.
Friday.
We're going to try to record while we're there, although it won't go up until I get back, because we'll record with the actual camera, and I'm not bringing all the
We
editing
should
crap
take a
with me.
camera to Maryland.
I'll bring them both, and I'll give you one.
I could frolic with the sheep and you could take video.
Yes, dear. Okay, so we will see you guys again from Maryland. They started a podcaster meetup, right?
They did.
Laura's forcing me to
At 1:30 in
attend.
the Lower Corral.
My antisocial tendencies are like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. I love meeting people, but it's just intimidating in a large group, that's all. So yeah, it's 1:30 in the Lower Corral, which is down where the sheep herding, or the sheep
It's down
dog.
where Hobbledehoy and Ross Farm and a bunch of vendors are down near, there's a big bank of porta potties, and then the sheep herding. Dumbass.
You just said Potta Porties. That's so the episode thread title.
Awesome.
Okay.
And no one will know why, because it's at the end and we've been talking for forever.
Y'all have a fantastic week, and hope to see some of you at Maryland. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.